What is scale length? Scale length on a stringed musical instrument is the vibrating length of the string from the nut to the saddle. If you're a guitar player, there are a few familiar scales. Gibson use multiple scales, but I think they call them all 24 3/4 inch. Martin guitars, they tend to be, I think, 25.4 inch. My old boss, Stefan Sobell, based everything on the 650mm scale. That's classical guitar scale length, and that's the longest of the three I've mentioned. Thing is, if you go on the internet and ask what effect does scale length have, you will get some reasonable advice. It's quite generic. You'll be told that a longer scale length will give you more tension, feel a bit stiffer, that a shorter scale length feels softer. And it's true, but there's more to it than that. So if you're playing in standard tune, you've got a set of 12s on your guitar, yeah, the shorter scale will usually feel a little less stiff than the longest scale. So far, so standard. If you play in drop tunings like DADGAD, that sort of generic answer, it's not enough. Once you start playing in DADGAD, scale has an effect on multiple things, not just how the instrument feels. It ceases to be just a matter of comfort. There's a sort of relationship reveals itself once you drop tunings between playability, feel, tone, and intonation. So you've got a 24 3/4 inch scale guitar, you've got a set of 12s on, you drop down to DADGAD, it's going to feel quite nice, it's going to feel very silky, quite easy to play. But you will notice as you start going up the neck, your intonation starts getting a bit poor. Or you put a capo on and the thing sounds out of tune straight away. How do you solve this problem? Well, the solution is you put a set of 13s on, you go heavier strings. Right, it actually starts sounding a little bit better. Your intonation improves, but it doesn't feel as nice anymore. You're starting to lose the very thing that you went for the short scale for in the first place. That's a classic trade-off. Doesn't mean the shorter scale is wrong. If you've got little hands like me and you're trying to play fiddle tunes, that shorter scale might help you play clearly. What you don't want to do is have a scale that's too long for you that you can't quite manage. So yeah, the shorter scale could still be the better choice. Live with the compromise as far as intonation goes, because you're making less mistakes. So there's no free lunch. Back to DADGAD. The longer scale does help here. Remember, longer scale is more tension. You've got another guitar. It's a 650mm scale length. You've got a set of 12s on, you've got it in standard pitch. It is going to feel a little bit tight, but you drop that down to DADGAD and it starts actually feeling quite nice. You're not losing anything. You've got enough tension for your intonation to be good, for it still to feel reasonably compliant, and it's going to sound good. Certainly on one of my guitars anyway. So you don't lose any clarity, the intonation behaves itself. But if you're the sort of player who goes between DADGAD and standard pitch, that 650 might feel a bit tight. This is when 25.4 inch comes into play. It's just a little bit shorter, but it does make a difference. You've got enough tension to stay in tune when you tune down, and it's not overly stiff when you're in standard tuning. So for many people, 25.4 inch is actually a good choice. Doesn't mean the middle ground's always right, because there's something else you've got to consider. If you build guitars like mine, which are really quite clean sounding and quite loud, that additional volume tends to expose the mistakes more readily than a quieter, woolly, warm sounding guitar. Some guitars definitely hide these issues better than others. If the sound is warm enough and muddy enough, you're not going to hear it. But when you're building guitars for clarity and separation, it's harder to ignore. So in that regard, my guitars don't flatter sloppy playing. When you're picking a scale length and when you're picking a guitar, also see where are you at and what sort of challenge are you up for. There's a really great bouzouki player called Aaron Jones. He bought a Sobell bouzouki in the early 90s. And Aaron said when he got it, he had never realised what a rough player he was, because all of a sudden he was on a much better quality instrument that was really had a lot of separation, a lot of clarity, a lot of power, and he could hear all these mistakes. So he was up for it though. He decided, right, I'm going to learn all over again. And he cleaned up his technique, and he is one of the best you'll ever hear. Sometimes a better instrument encourages better playing. Which leads to the next question. You're playing cleanly, you're playing really well, but your instrument still isn't in tune. What's going on? What's being compromised, and what can a maker like me do about it? Well, it's an interesting subject, and I made a video all about that. So if you look in the corner, click that link, and I'll see you in the next video.